Hi Stampers, it's Lisa. Welcome to today's live. I apologize, I'm running just a couple minutes late, but there was a good reason. I'm actually working my way ahead and I already have all my cards designed for not only next week's lives, but the tutorial that's going to go along with them. So I'm getting sort of back on track. But this week, we're doing this card and everybody seemed to be really excited about it. So Janet and I worked extra hard and we already have the tutorial done and I loaded it into the store. So if you're looking for printed directions and diagrams and the whole thing, it's all up there and it's ready for purchase. But let's go ahead and make it so you can see if you're interested. I'm going to move you down to my desk. And like I said, this is our card. It's called the Flying Finch, and it was designed by my friend Susan Campfield. And I just love fun folds. And so I had to give this one a try. And I'm actually going to do it this time in Pretty Peacock. And we're going to start out with, let me get these in the right order. Okay, we're going to start out with 2 pieces of cardstock that are 5.5 by 6 1/4. Then we're going to score them at 1.5, 2 3/4, and 4 5/8. Okay, so that's going to give us these 2 pieces. We're going to make a mountain fold and then a valley and a valley. So 2 of them exactly like this. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this one over here and I'm going to spin it 180 degrees. And then I'm going to butt those 2 seams together. And then if you want to, you can choose to put a Post-it note back there just to kind of hold them together so they don't shift too much. It's not necessary for making the card, but it is something that somebody had mentioned they found made it easier. Because what we're going to do next is we're going to create the piece that's going to go on here. And that's going to be our focal point of the card. Okay, so we need this piece back here. So we need a piece of cardstock that's going to be the same color as our base. And we're going to make this piece 5.5 by 3.5. So let me bring out my trimmer. So this is going to go right on there. Now we trimmed it down and we started out on our other one. You'll notice we start with an 8 1/4 instead of an 8.5. And this is the reason, is because we wanted to highlight the center, but I don't know if you can see this. See how there's the bottom piece? We've taken off just 1/4 of an inch, so there's an 1/8 on either side. So when we glue this down, we have a little bit of wiggle room left to right, but there is not wiggle room top to bottom. So just something to keep in mind. Now, some people prefer to just put glue on here and set this down and then line it up. That's definitely a possibility, especially if you're using liquid glue, because you do have wiggle room and time to move that all around. The other option is that you can find the center of this 3.5, which I think is 1 3/4. So you could just put a tiny pencil mark there and then go ahead and glue one of these on at a time. Actually, we're going to go this way with it. There it is. And you can see how there is that room right here. But however you choose to do it, we want to make sure that this piece covers these 2 And that's our main goal, is just that right there. That's going to be our hardest part of this entire card, is just making these two pieces go onto here. Because I think you have to agree with me that making these two pieces and the score lines, really not that hard. Then I flipped 180 degrees. That wasn't that hard. And then we butted these two seams together. Right? I mean, pretty simple. So now we're going to put some adhesive on here. And I'm going with the liquid, so I have some time to wiggle this around. Probably got a little too much on there. And then I'm going to find that little centerpiece, my little tick mark there. And then I'm going to make it flush top and bottom. A little too much glue. So that's when I bring in one of my wipes. And I'm getting my hands clean mostly. I've still got a little wiggle room on the card, but I want to make sure that's where it needs to be. And then we're going to put the second part right here. So again, I'm using the liquid glue. And we're using that piece from the other side. And I want this. So it's kind of the back of the piece we did all our cutting and scoring on. And that's it. So does anybody have any questions to this point? Is it making sense? Because really now all we're down to is our design, putting on the layers of things and prettying up our card. So let me know if you get this, if you understand it, if you need more explanation, let me know. You also want to make sure that if you are live, that you're putting in hashtag prize patrol, because somebody is going to get today's card in the mail. And I know this is one everybody wants because it's very cool. So now I just need my designer series paper for these two panels right here and our center one. So I'm going to bring out the DSP. And I'm using the Hello Irresistible. This is the designer series paper that was in our online exclusives. And I've used it before. We're just pulling it out again because I loved that it was nice and neutral. Okay, so for the middle, let's go with this one. It's mostly going to be covered up. Then I'm going to do those, and I think this one. Okay, so for the centerpiece, okay, somebody's going to ask me, but this right here that I'm keeping my papers into, it holds the 6x6 perfectly. What I did was I took one of the backs to the designer series paper, our 12x12. I cut it in half and then I scored it. Let's see. From one side, it is scored at 5 and 5.5. And then I used our envelope punch board, which is retired, and made this little tab. Now you could just measure over and stop cutting and make your own squared off tab. Mine's rounded because that's just what the envelope punch board does. But it's a great way to hold your 6x6. And then I have them all in one of those refrigerator bins. It's, you can get them at all the stores. It's just for storage in the refrigerator. Okay, back to our card. Okay, so I want to decide which one I want to have hang out on the edge, because when this is closed, the one that's over here is what you're going to see behind there. So I kind of used the same color in matting the middle and then matting the outside. And then the pop of color comes when I open it. And I think I kind of like that. So I'm going to go with 5 1/4. As my height, because obviously all the way across we're 5 1/4. This panel here, remember we scored at 1 1/2. So this needs to be 1 1/4. Let's do this one. Because this will use up a scrap. And then remember our piece here in the middle, this was a 3 1/2. So I want 3 1/4. Now I'm trying not to go too fast. I know sometimes I kind of do because I'm also thinking in the back of my head, you don't want to have to fast forward too much if you're out there on replay. So if you need me to slow down or if you have a question, please let me know. That's part of the benefit of being here live is I get to address your questions. So if you have questions, don't be afraid to share them. Okay, so again, 5 1/4 tall, but just 1 inch wide. And see how that goes, it's kind of consistent on the outside and gives that pop of color once it opens. I kind of liked that effect. Did you know that there's an option on the YouTube videos that you can slow them down and speed them up? It's in the settings along the bottom of the video screen. And sometimes I find that helpful. Also, if you want to find a specific part in a video, if when you're playing on replay, you grab where the little play bar is, that little red circle of, where you're at on the video, pull up on it, like hold your mouse on it and pull up, and then you can go over frame by frame. It will show you in pictures where you are in the video. So it helps you maneuver around in there. I don't know how that affects my advertising, but I just know that I want you guys to have the best experience that you can when out there viewing my videos. And don't forget to, like and subscribe and all that good stuff. I've already got the card for Monday all worked out, and the video reminder thing is up there. So you can go to my YouTube channel under the content and hit the reminder button, and it will shoot you a little message when I go live if you need that reminder. Some people have said that they need that, and some people said they set an alarm. So I think that's wonderful that you set an alarm to spend time with me. That's just great. I know I have multiple alarms at my house going off, so I remember to join you. Yeah, see, Catherine says it's coming together nicely. See, it's really quite simple. So we've got everything kind of all decorated. Now, you can put white back here. You don't have to do both panels. You can choose to do one or the other. I liked it back there, so when it's open, again, you're getting that little pop of color. And then I put it here because I think this is where I would write my message, because it will allow the card to display and stand up and not have that writing interfere with the look of it when it's standing up for display. So now we come to the part where we're going to play around with this stamp set. This is the Here's to Love stamp set. There are no dies, so I did a little bit of fussy cutting to get her bouquet, but it's not bad. The piece for the middle to be 3 by 5 is what we're going to be stamping onto. So this may not be a card that you create like all the time, but I keep thinking that a wedding card needs to be kind of special, right? We want a little extra something, because hopefully a wedding is one of those once in a lifetime things. And we want something special. So I'm going to do like I did last time, in that I'm going to go ahead and stamp our groom. I wanted something a little more subtle, so I'm going in smoky slate rather than basic black. And then I'm going to cover him up with the mask. Now, we made the mask last time, or we used it last time. And so we can just use this again. I keep it in the box and use it over and over and over again. And it's not quite as sticky as it was, which is kind of almost a good thing, because when we pull it off, we are not at risk of it pulling up part of our cardstock. We want to make sure that that stays nice, because we're going to start coloring on it. Last time we did his suit in basic black, so I thought this time we'll do it in basic, or not basic gray. We don't have basic gray. We have smoky slate. Bring those in, and okay, so I'm going to bring these in for their hair. I have dark wild wheat and dark pecan pie. Now on this example, I used this piece right here. My guess was this is an extension of her hair. I thought it was kind of long. I think maybe what I might do if I did that again is put a Post-it note kind of somewhere up here before I stamped that. And then you could make that shorter so it fell kind of mid-back. I think that's too long. But that was just me. I'm going to bring in one of our skin tones here. I have the medium light dark. We're going to say she went and got a tan before the wedding. So it's got a little more color than what I used last time. Okay, so I'm going to do the little parts, like her hand and the edges, with the bullet tip end. And then I think I'm going to fill in with the brush tip, because there is a larger area in her back here. I get the back of his neck, his ears. And then he has hands down here and right here. Ooh. Okay, now sometimes the other tip may have a little more ink, so it almost looks like it's a whole nother color. It's not. It's the same ink that's all the way in there. This end just happens to be a little juicier, I guess is the word I'm looking for. So I'm just going to go over it a little more, but as it dries, it will all neutralize and it will be the same color. It will, I promise. Okay. Let's see, here's his suit. So let's come in with this one. How's everybody doing today? Did you get any crafting done this week? Like I said, I've been a little craft-tastic this week. I've done lots and lots and lots of cards so that we have the tutorial of all 6 cards for this one and the tutorial of all 6 cards for next week. And next week, we're using the Zany Zoo bundle. Does anybody have that one? It's really cute, and I at first didn't think I needed it, of course, and then if somebody came out with some fabulous ideas and, you know, it was on my list. Hopefully I'm doing that for someone else, because when I went looking for ideas on Pinterest for what to do with this couple, there was almost nothing. So when I upload my pictures, hopefully I'm inspiring someone else who thought they didn't need this stamp set. And then I made cute cards and now they do. Now the bottom of him, this threw me in that it's kind of uneven. Like his legs just kind of end in the middle of nowhere, as does her dress. And so the only thing I could think to do is just kind of wisp the ends. Kind of like they did. So that was dark. I'm coming in with light. Where the two touch, I have a tendency to do small circles. So it saturates it and brings it out into the middle so that it will blend together. I probably should not have done such a large area. And might need a new set of ink pens because these are running a little dry. This is just another set of smoky slate. So I'm still working with the light. This one just happened to have a little more ink in it. Apparently I use this color a lot because it started drying out. I got a new set and now that one's kind of drying out. But it's a great neutral color. All right. Then, like I said, we're going to do their hair. This has been the best use I've found for wild wheat so far, was to color blonde hair, because it's got just enough brown in it that it looks like a true blonde. Okay, I'm just looking for questions. Wendy said she's cleaning her craft room. You know, I actually like cleaning my craft room and pulling out things that I'm not using because it frees up space in my craft room, but also space in my head so I can find what I want more easily. Yep. It's actually been fun. Like I said, it was not on my wish list to begin with, but it's been fun. And each piece of the designer series paper has one character that cuts out of it with one of the dies. So you can easily make a card with little characters and not have to do any coloring. So actually, most of what I've done has not been colored. I've been cutting out all of the little pieces because I have the Brothers Scan and Cut. And it has the ability to scan in a piece of designer series paper and then cut it out for me. So anything with a nice defined edge like those are, cut out beautifully. Okay, I'm just going to add just a little bit of Wink of Stella to her dress. The more Wink of Stella that you add, the more silver it gets. I know it says clear on the packaging, and it is indeed clear when you use it lightly. If you squeeze a little too hard and get more out than intended, it will be very silver. So you have to be a little bit careful with that. I don't know if you can see, but it kind of goobered a little bit down here on her dress. So it's a little bit darker right there than on the rest of her dress, because the base of the clear is a silver in order to make it shine. Okay, I'm going to do across the top here, to have and to hold. In the tutorial, I tried to use all of the different stamps in the set. Where is it? Oops. Sorry. Most of my blocks are over there with the Zoo Crew on them from my designing. Let's see. Do this one, Pretty Peacock. Okay. And so there is our finished card. So I could use a little more burnishing. Okay, so who found that to be easier than they thought it would be? And who has questions? Yes, I think kids will love that Zany Zoo. I think you're right. I can tell that end is dry from looking at it. When these first came out, we had the This Little Piggy stamp set, and I did a card that said This Little Piggy Stayed Home, and I put a mask on him when we were all doing the COVID thing and everybody had to wear masks, and then I sold them on Etsy, and they were so popular. But it made all of my pinks run out because I colored a whole lot of pigs. When I'm coloring little tiny things like this, I start with just little tiny, barely touching the tip down to the paper, because I can always add more ink, but I can't take it off. So that's always my theory there. And then when fussy cutting, you know, I turn the paper instead of the scissors. I leave the scissors kind of comfortable in my hand where I feel I have the most control. And then I just pivot the paper around until I can cut it out. Okay, and then I'm just going to stick this on with a dimensional. And then we'll add a few basic pearls and we'll be all done. I'll come back in and add the white layers. I think you all are pretty good at putting on layers. That's not necessary for me to do on camera. When adding pearls, I use the Take Your Pick tool. And I have a tendency to use this end to pick it up and carry it over, which is one option. The other option is you can use this putty end and you just press down until it kind of sticks and then slide. And then you want to put those kind of things on in odd numbers. When this starts to get a little bit light that you don't have enough of the putty, you just screw down on it until more pops out. But then you want to be sure that you back it off kind of half a turn so that it stops putting pressure on it. Because as long as it has pressure on it, it's going to continue to ooze. Even if you stuck the cap back on it and put it back in the drawer, it will still ooze as long as there's pressure. So, I'm trying not to leave a white edge around the flowers. It's a little bit difficult because the flowers, I mean, there's white in there between the leaves. But I didn't want to cut off the edge of the flowers either. So, I don't know, there's kind of a fine line there. When I cut the little figurines out of the paper, I did leave a little bit of white, partially because I was putting them onto white or I wanted them to pop a little. Like this is probably going to be Thursday's card. I'll make a, this is a mini card in a box. For this tutorial, I made the larger one, which is what I usually make, but we're going to make the mini one next week. So this is in the tutorial. This is next week. And I cut fairly close, trying not to cut off the line, but I got as close as I could without doing that. When they're cut out with the die, they actually do have a little bit of a border. Because this guy's cut out with the die. So did that answer your question, Ginger? I know it wasn't a definitive yes or no, but that's all I had for today. I need to grab the card we're going to do on Monday. And then this is the Flying Finch. And when all folded up, it fits in an envelope, portrait style. There's also the Flying Seagull. So this one folds up and goes into the envelope landscaped. And here's Monday's card. And because the DSP was on sale and so many of you said you have a lot left over that's retired, I thought this would be a good way to show off a way to feature designer series paper. And we will do that on Monday. So I need you to all enter hashtag Prize Patrol to get entered into the drawing. The computer is back there behind the scenes collecting everybody's name. And then we're going to give the wheel a spin and see who our winner is. And then I'll need you to fill out the claim form and tell me if you want the Pretty Peacock or the Lost Lagoon version. So let me get over to the wheel and share that. There we go. Janet is our winner. Congratulations, Janet. You will be getting today's card mailed to you in the mail. There is the address for where to claim your card. If you put in queenbeecreations.net/prize patrol, that will lead you to the Google form where you can give me your mailing address. And like I said, the written tutorial for this card is already up on my website. It's at queenbeecreations.net/store. So I will add that to the description. And thank you everybody for joining me, and come back on Monday when we make this adorable card. Thanks for joining me. Bye.